Welcome back to another episode on the Landscaping Podcast. I'm your host, Zachary Small. Today joined by Shay Brickhouse, the one and only who has returned from the islands. We finally get a double host session. Before we dive into this episode where we are talking about the weather warming up and getting back into landscaping, meaning getting out there on the grass that is now growing. Shay, where you been, brother? How's life? What's going on?
Well, we went to Hawaii. My brother, who runs the True Value of Bath, down here in the great town of Bath, sold a ton of product, and so he got a rewards trip. And me and my wife and my kids were fortunate enough to join him on that. Have a little extended family vacation, so that was pretty fun. Until the airport got me sick, so that's why I've been absent. And finally got my voice back 2 days ago, and it's been a struggle.
So when Shay got back, we were having a conversation, and literally, it's like his voice disappeared. There was no voice.
Yeah.
And so at one point, he's passing notes, and we're relaying the message because he couldn't via text or via writing, but he was a mute. So I'm glad you got your voice back. We're going to get you back up and running. I don't think there's too much rust accumulated since the last podcast, which you actually recorded in Hawaii. That was awesome. Yeah. So how was that, sitting there and being able to be in a totally different landscape to talk about landscape? Like, is there anything that stood out more while you were down there about how their plants are growing or what you saw in the environment?
Yeah, I mean, I think I hit on it some in the podcast that I recorded there. But walking around the resort, I'm constantly just looking at the resort landscaping. And it's always fascinating to me that resorts, they're really high end. But there's always something there that I'm like, man, for a high end place, like they kind of slubbed over this one little thing. And that's just me being peculiar. But it's like, the place is beautiful, but like I find that little thing. And one thing that stood out to me the most was like the irrigation system they had out there, because nothing would live on that side of the island without it. Half their pipes around the whole resort aren't buried. And I don't know if that's because it's rock.
They're like, we can't go deeper.
Yeah, so it's like hard to plant. Obviously, they're not worried about it freezing right there because it doesn't really get that cold. But I thought that was interesting that their pipes were like exposed a lot of times. So I thought that was kind of interesting in itself. And that the pop-up heads that we would typically bury were just on risers and being used that way. And so I thought that was interesting, just the way that they installed that irrigation system versus the way we do here on the entire East Coast.
Yeah, that's wild. I picture that being an eyesore. Like, that would bother me.
Yeah, well, a lot of it was hidden by like some of the plants, but I think it's the landscaper's vision in me is that's what I like fixated my eyes on when I walked by and saw it. As like, it just stood out to me. Nobody else I was with probably even noticed it, but it was just something I noticed.
It's funny. That's a real thing. We were at a client's property yesterday, and while you guys were having a conversation, I started looking around at like the woodwork he had done, and I'm like touching things and seeing how sturdy they are. And in the back of my head, I'm like, dude, I'm getting old, or I'm getting like the landscaper like vision is like, I'm starting to look at plants and rocks differently. I'm touching things to see how sturdy they are. It's pretty funny, like these things that I didn't normally do, I now catch myself doing. So going back to Hawaii for a second, do they have an off season? Like, do they have a cold season?
Oh, yeah, I mean, we were in it. I mean, typically just like us now, the winter months are the winter months, so it's still cooler. Wasn't really cold. I mean, the wind was blowing one day. And,
well, let's think about how it would affect their plant growth and their landscapers out there. Does it get cold enough for it to slow down the way it does here?
No, I don't think they have like a dormant period like we do
that's
here. Yeah, I don't think they have that. It's not really like a true winter. I mean, this would be considered the tropics. Kind of like, but you get down to Florida, I mean, they're going to be mowing grass pretty much year round. I mean, I know there's like a couple months, kind of like January, right around that time, that they kind of slow down a little bit in Florida. But for the most part, they're mowing grass year round. And that's pretty much how Hawaii is. They're mowing grass. I did pay attention as we were driving around. The grass varieties I saw, like 90% Bermuda. Almost everything was Bermuda. I did see some St. Augustine, which I thought was pretty cool, which means they got like imported there. Mm-hmm. Somebody really wanted St. Augustine. The Bermuda, obviously, I could understand that on resorts. They probably got that trucked in pallets of sod, or not trucked in, cargo shipped in because it's an island. But yeah, so they probably, which would be wild to think about it getting cut, harvested, put on a pallet, shipped to a harbor, put on a ship.
Expedited.
Yeah, and shipped over there. I mean, that's pretty wild. I guess they could put it in a cargo plane that sure they could do it that way too. But thinking about that's pretty cool. And the reason I say I'm pretty confident it's sodded is because I don't think they seeded their resort because they wanted instant gratification. So that's pretty cool to see that. And I mean, it all looked like a TIFF Tough or a TIFF Wave 419 or something like that. So it looked pretty cool to see all that types of grass that we have here.
So looking at the types of grass we have here, I'm starting to notice that more is growing. And so let's talk about the warm season. Yeah. We were looking at one of the properties we maintained, and I was squatting down, I was looking at, different plants that were, what was dormant, what's coming to life, and like some of the grass, it was resilient, and so it was a winter grass.
Yep.
But our dormant grass is starting to green up a little bit. It's starting to come back. And so today, our topic is going to be landscaping unlimited, shifting gears, going from winter to spring. What does that look like how many seasons would you say, what season are we going into for you running the company into like the next spring? Like how many springs have you done doing this?
This year we're getting ready to go into the second spring because it's North Carolina. And so we're entering the false spring. You guys listening that aren't from North Carolina weather doesn't know what it's going to do.
It has no idea.
It's either going to be freezing or it's going to be 100 degrees all on the same day. Not being dramatic.
No.
But now we're kind of entering this like false spring. And just a little while ago, we were looking at a map that was showing the soil temps in our area today and trying to use that to set us up for like when we think, we're going to be transitioning to full-blown springtime. The landscape company doesn't have time to stop. And our grounds maintenance crews are going to be running, nonstop. So ironically, what I'm seeing, the grasses, your centipede, your Bermuda, your zoysia, your St. Augustine, they're still dormant right now. They're not entirely woke up. They're coming out of that transition because the soil temps today are 61 degrees. And so around that 50, 55, they really start waking up, once you get some consecutive nighttime temps that way. And so our weeds also are waking up. That's what that means. So like if you put your pre out and you've got some winter weeds that kind of made it through your pre-emergent that you put out in the fall, you're going to start seeing them right now because we've had some warm days or a warm week that kind of allowed that seed to germinate and go ahead and take growth. Our temperature may have dropped right back down for a week, but that 1 week we had where it popped up, allowed that stuff to germinate. And so we're starting to see henbit. We're starting to see that poana really pop. We're starting to see the wild onions and the chickweed and the dandelions, start to come out and start emerging in that lawn. And within another 2 weeks, we're really going to see these lawns taken over by weeds. And so even if your grass isn't fully come out of dormancy, you're going to be out there mowing weeds. And that's what our guys are. I'm seeing some of our clients that don't do the weed program or don't care too much about that. They just want their grass cut. We're going to be on those lawns sooner than what we think because the henbit, the clover, and all that stuff is getting ready to take over, and they're going to want to see it manicured. So that's what we're going to have to go do.
Yeah, we're beyond the window of pre at this point. Now we're dealing with post for a majority of what's going to be going on and what we're going to be doing heading forward.
Well, I mean, we're beyond the window of pre, but there's still, it's not late to put out pre. I mean, you can still put out a pre. You can change your chemical formulation to something that's a little more direct right now. It might not give you as much long term, but you're not looking for long term. That's something you would put out in the fall. So like right now, you're trying to really quickly catch a few weeds that aren't germinating. So it's never a bad time for pre because it's still helping you. You got to return. You got to do the math and get your ROI, your return on investment. As a consumer, and realize, is it worth it if it's cutting it down by 50% or 20% of my weeds that I would have got? I mean, if it's worth it to you financially, then yeah, go ahead and put your pre out. It's going to help you. You're going to fight less weeds with your post. So I'm not saying like don't do it, but coming into March and mid-March, you're really at the end of that window, which would be like your late season pre. So if you're going to do it, you want to do it right now. Listen to this podcast, go get you some pre's, or call your landscaper and say, hey, can you be here yesterday? And hope he doesn't get mad at you.
Yeah, I want to go to the site, or I was going to actually talk to you. I want to drop a post that kind of shows that calendar for people to see kind of roughly what it is we're looking at. Yeah. Because every time we go into site one, I kind of stare at the wall they have where it's got it laid out as to when your pre's are going out, your post, the different the many different chemicals you can bring into your lawn to ensure that it's as healthy as possible for as long as possible, and just for people to kind of see like there are timelines for this. It's not just like whenever, go ahead and do it. It's like no, like just like any other plant that's growing, like there are certain moments during that plant's life that some things will be more effective.
Yeah.
And so it's important for people to understand that.
Yeah, and I think it's cool that that chart you're talking about, it's got the month, and it's like it's a bar graph kind of, and it kind of is different color coded, but it's not saying like, well, as long as you put it out in January, you're good. It's all dependent upon that year.
Yep.
And you have to really stay on top of what the weather's doing, what it has done, what you're thinking it's gonna do based off of the early forecast, and using all of that to put together the best program, because it's all germination of your weeds really come down to like soil temps. And so you really want to be checking these maps, seeing what soil temps are now, what they have been previously, and then kind of using your knowledge and experience in the industry to look forward 7 to 10 days and be like, man, if I don't get this spray out right now, we've got 5-6 days of 65, 70 degree days, 55 degree nights, which means the soil temps are going to start coming up, which means that if you don't get it out, you're too late. So that's kind of, it's not a cut and dry schedule. It's a this is a guide, but you have to really dive into the experience and just really doing your research.
Well, that experience, that's what I was picking your brain. How many years, like what are you going into? How many years have you been doing landscaping?
So I've been a licensed landscape contractor since 2015, and this 2026 now. I want to say my pesticide license I might have gotten 2014. I might have got that a year before I got my contractor's license. I had to get back and look.
So roughly, this is your 11th year as a licensed landscape contractor.
Yeah.
Going into spring. And so looking at that, with your experience going into this, not just a map you're looking at on the wall, what are you foreseeing based off what you saw this winter we're going to be expecting this summer? And how are you, as the business owner, looking at manpower and kind of how you're going to attack and schedule out the properties that we maintain? Because we've got a lot of grass that we're responsible for. And so we got to make sure that we're meeting our clients. We got to serve them. And so what's your game plan, or how do you see it playing out compared to maybe past springs?
Yeah, so March 1st for us is always like, you don't got time to think about it. It's usually go time, March 1st hits, because you've got about a week, and then it's like, all right, the phone's getting ready to ring off the hook.
That's Monday.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm getting at. But you should, historically, landscaping industries are always thought of in the wintertime as your downtime in our area. For us, it's never really been the case. We're 12 months out of the year. We always find something to do. This year, we've had more than enough work to do, and I'm very fortunate for that. And a lot of that's due to the guys, doing and performing quality work throughout the years. And so it's built us up a clientele of that. But moving into the spring, we've had our lawn guys, they haven't been cutting much grass through the winter. So they've been working with our Hardscape team and our install team, doing some larger Hardscape projects. And so they've been helping them out. Well, March 1st, when that hits, now they're jumping back into those contracts and those routine lawn care customers that we've had for years, or new clients. So they're getting ready to start jumping on those properties, which means our Hardscape team is now going to lose all the additional help they had. So we're going to be looking at hiring on some more guys that are motivated and want to stay for that year, and hopefully they'll stick out through the winter as well, and we'll kind of keep expanding the business. As well as we'll be looking for hiring some more lawn maintenance guys to get out there, run some weed eaters, edgers, mowers, blowers, drive the trucks, move equipment around and things of that nature. And then we're also looking at the chemical program. So we've got to have somebody out there, hey, ready to go get that post-emergent put out when those customers call. Weeds aren't one of those things that when they call you right away, it's like, I got to be there today. But if you wait a week, sometimes a lot changes. And so from the time you consult with the customer to the time you can apply, if you don't get it right, sometimes the scope of work that you were originally planning on doing and the time you get there, well, when you get there, you'll be like, man, I didn't see lesbidesia when I came out here last time, and I don't have a chemical for that. Or, wow, when I came out here and diagnosed it, I didn't see all the purple nut sedge. I don't have that in my truck, but I need to spot spray this. So it's like, that can change very quickly. So you kind of want to diagnose the yard, put a plan together, get that sold with the customer, and get back to it as soon as you can. Or else what you're going to have is, the weeds might spread more and then germinate or lay there dormant and not be affected by your spray. And then they germinate again. So you kind of want to get them out when you can.
So we have some properties that are larger. We have some smaller residential properties, and we've got some very large businesses that we've got to maintain. And so looking at that, the grass is growing at the same rate at the same time, like roughly across the entire area as the temperature's going up. Do you have a specific plan as to like, all right, we start with these and we work our way around? Or like, what's the strategy that goes into like making sure you hit the right places at the right time? Is it knock out the big stuff first and then go tidy up the little stuff, or knock the little stuff out and then all hands on deck for the larger properties?
So it's ironic you said that they're all like kind of around the same time frame. And I've talked to you before about our river systems here and like hurricanes and how that plays a big role. Ironically, all the places close to the water in our area, they start greening up sooner. And so we see weeds around those properties sooner than what you do further away from that water system. So like yards that are right there on the water. For example, my father-in-law lives on the water, and every year his yard greens up a week, 2 weeks before someone else's does. And it's more humid. The soil temp for some reason is a little bit more there. But like I know for his yard, it greens up quicker. So he's doing things sooner than what another property that we would maintain is. He runs a business in town, and his business is always delayed compared to what his yard is. So it's I see that, and then we plan around that. So if we've got customers kind of on the water, well, obviously we know we're going there first. Typically, the way we've set our schedule up over the years and have found out it works best for us is our commercial customers. They're always taken care of Monday, Tuesday, because we want their businesses looking good through the week while people are shopping, with them.
Makes sense.
Some people say, well, want it done on Friday. Well, if you're a bank, you're closing Friday afternoon. It doesn't matter if it looks good Saturday, Sunday. Your customers aren't coming Saturday and Sunday. Yep. They're coming Monday through Friday. So we try to get them all done on Monday, and then boom, the properties look good all week, and then they're good to go, through the weekend. And our residential customers, everybody wants it done Friday morning. Well, you can't do everybody on Friday morning, so there's got to be a compromise to that. Obviously, if you got a customer that's doing a ton of entertaining on the weekend, and that's what they do, then you try to work with them and get that scheduled to where you're doing them on that, the latest part of the week that you can. And so that's kind of how we set our schedule up, is we try to do commercial properties beginning of the week, residentials, the end of the week. HOAs, if they're like apartment complexes and stuff like that, usually we hit them up beginning and middle of the week. They're not as crucial as the house on the water where they're entertaining in their backyard. If it's an apartment complex, those tenants aren't usually out there grilling, and so we just want that property maintained weekly. And so beginning midweek is usually a good time frame for them. But you have larger HOAs that have like pools and like marinas and stuff like that. It's kind of the same scenario, kind of like midweek. You want to go hit those marinas and those pool sides because your homeowners that are living in there will be coming more so on the weekend than they will on Monday, Tuesday. But you also don't want to be out there mowing while they're trying to enjoy their peace and quiet. Yeah. So you usually try to schedule that stuff like a Wednesday or early Thursday morning, and then it gives them all weekend where you're not there, but they've got some pristine landscaping to look around. And so it's talking about it right now really made me think about, man, there was a lot of thought put into this in the early years, and how unfortunate I am that I was taught this instead of had to come up with it.
Yeah. No, there's a lot of strategy that goes into all that, and that's why I'm picking your brain here. Yeah. Because the strategy that goes into it, it comes from the experience, and that's what you have. I don't think people understand or have enough appreciation for like how much work goes into the little things. Like the conversation we're having about springing into motion because spring's coming around and things are about to pick up. We're already having those talks with our guys. We've already had talks on the job site. We've already had talks in the shop, during some meetings, and we're letting them know like, hey, like we're already planting the seed and letting people know like things are about to shift. And so everybody's starting to get ready. You can see it in the guys, their behavior and the conversations they're having. Like the weather's picking up, the team's, it's already starting to get ourselves in motion. So when it's time, like, hey, it's time to go. It's not like now we're taking our first step. or we're building momentum for the first time, like
Yeah.
they're already almost like chomping at the bits.
Yeah.
All right, let me go do my thing. Especially our lawn guys, you know, they've been working with the Hardscape guys, and then our Hardscape guys, you know, they're enjoying all of that. So
Yeah.
the shift that happens, I kind of like seeing it because it's just when you see the two teams work together, it's one team, one company. We all work together to get the job done. But there are two like components to it.
Yep.
We have our Hardscape guys doing a premium work for the Hardscape, and we have our lawn crews that are just crushing it, you know, with the lawns. And so they've been together all winter, and it's like that little fracture happens. And these guys, they jump in their mowers, they're ready to go. And the other guys are like, all right, well, I guess we got to go out and do it ourselves. And so they lose the extra muscle, but it's cool. And one of the things that I really am digging about this, and going back to like the social media and the podcast, putting ourselves out there, we have a long list of people who are looking to join Landscaping Unlimited. There are a lot of applications that are coming in, and I'm looking forward to just continuing to add to the team and finding those right candidates who want to come out and see this as a career, and they want to go on here long term. Like you said, we are year round, and there are some guys who like they enjoy the summer part of it, you know, but they've never been a part of a company that had a winter part of it.
Yeah.
You know, and so they're always let go. And so we've got a few people who have experience that are like, wow, you guys run all year. I want to be a part of that. You know, I want something a little more stable long term. And so seeing those applications come in and hearing those conversations, I'm looking forward to getting to know those people because we have the right candidate, you know, before you know it, we might have one of them sitting right here talking to us on the podcast, sharing their experience. And so I'm looking forward to like, who are these new people that they know what we're about. They've seen all our story and this is what they want to be a part of. And I'm like, that's what's up because those professionals, those who are trying to have a professional career, those are the people I want on here. And like we're starting to see those names come in. So with all those applications, it's a long list to dig through.
Yeah.
But you find the right people, it's gonna be fun.
Hiring is always a fun part of the business for sure. And this time of year, it's always, for example, like January, if someone was working in a landscape company, they're always calling and looking for a job because they've been let go from their seasonal job that they were working with. And they're calling and wanting to know if you're hiring. And like typically we don't do a ton of hiring in January. You know, we're year round, but we want to take care of the employees we have currently hired. And then next year, you know, if you're here, then we'll expand through the season to make sure we have enough work for you that winter. But January is always a tough time, but we get a ton of phone call applications, you know, people that got let go and they're looking for another hardscapes team or another lawn care team to join. And so we hold those over. We let them know, hey, when March hits, you know, we're going to probably give you guys a call back and let you know either yes or no. And, you know, I'm looking at our whiteboard and so I see like March 20th.
I guess that's no right over here.
Yeah, that's kind of like a time frame we have in our head that like March 20th, you know, we've got to have X amount of employees rehired to expand a little bit to get this thing moving again. And that's what you want to do every year. You want to see some growth every year. That's a sign that you have a healthy business and you want to see this thing kind of keep right on going.
So I think if you have any questions on what we have going into the spring, or if there's anything we said that you're like, I want to know more about that, drop the comment, share it. We've had a few questions come in, and so we're going to be addressing that in a few of the podcasts we have coming up. When you guys drop the question, we look forward to answering it. We're going to go on, do full research to make sure we give you the best answer we can. But I mean, I really enjoy that part of it. And before we go and we wrap this one up, we have somebody to give a shout out to?
Yes. I want to give a shout out to Tanner Davis with Green Wolf Landscape. We found out about you from my brother who runs the True Value Hardware store here in Bath, which you frequent and buy lawnmowers from. And he let us know that you listen to all the podcasts. And so that was awesome to hear feedback from, that you're listening to us. You know, it's great to know that we've got someone in the industry who's following along with the Landscape podcast. So if you've got anything that you want to ask us or that you want just, you know, deep dove into, then shoot us that message or call the store, bug my brother, and tell him what you want to hear. And we'll be happy to answer it here on the podcast. And look forward to talking to you soon.